Alright, welcome back to another Art of War 3 replay. I'm your host, John Cena, and today we're going to be doing a clan versus clan battle here. I'm going to be the blue player, my partner is going to be Harrydog, he will be the green player. We're going to be facing off against two resistance players from the Arabian Warriors clan. So let's go and get into it. We got a lot of action unfolding here. Right at the start of the battle, we got a lot of fighting going on for these early containers on the map. This is going to be crucial for that early game development piece. So, our infantry have the firepower, but these two players are doing a good job continuing to reinforce with riflemen. We got a partial scout onto the red player's base. Don't quite see a lot besides barracks though, so it doesn't tell us a lot about their strategy. Meanwhile, we're getting a scout onto the yellow player's base. Looks like they went for a triple barracks build. And looks like they're putting all their infrastructure in the back of their base, so it's going to be a little bit harder to scout the yellow player. So red looks like they've got some decent infrastructure down as well, so looks like both of these players know what they're doing. So both Harrydog and I are continuing to build up our infrastructure. I'm getting a couple deltas out to grab naval containers. Looks like the yellow player did not go for any kind of navy, so it's going to be an easy grab for me to get those containers. Harrydog's going to be able to grab a big container in the middle of the map. I was not able to grab the big container on my side of the map. We got some action happening on the side there. A couple infantry engaging. I'm going to send a delta over to scout out the yellow player. And we're getting a nice scout onto the yellow player's base. We can see an avia factory going down and double assault vehicle factories. So possible double vehicle build with dragonflies. Maybe dragonfly spam, I'm not quite sure yet. Yellow is already HQ3 though as well, so they're about on par with development compared to us. I'm going to go ahead and take my delta, and we're going to swing over to the red player's base, just so we can check out to see what the red players got as well. Meanwhile, I'm continuing to put down infrastructure. I'm going to go ahead and get down a 6th and 7th supply center, and we got a nice scout on the red player's base. We can see they've got an avia factory and an airfield, so we are anticipating some sort of hawk presence on the battlefield pretty soon here. Red is also HQ3 of course, otherwise they would not be able to put down that airfield, and red's got some nice infrastructure in the back of their base. So I'm going to go ahead and continue to put down some more infrastructure and production facilities on my end. I'm going to send my delta in for one last scout before it gets cleaned up by that armadillo. So Harrydog's a little bit slower than I am on the development, but he's still getting some infrastructure down that he's going to be able to use in the battle. And he asks if I'm going to produce a navy, and in this case I am not going to produce a navy. My Poseidons are practically stock, so I don't really want to depend on them for naval combat. And this isn't really a true naval map. I would say this is a map either for a land army build or an aviation build. Harrydog requests to go for heroes. I tell him negative. I tell him to go for an aviation build. I'm going to go for a land vehicle build. And it looks like the yellow player is going to tech up again. They are going for HQ4. And it looks like the red player is going double avia factory. So I think we're going to see a mass hawk build from the red player. And I think we'll see a land build from the yellow player. Most likely a dragonfly, jaguar, chameleon, and porcupine build. Looks like hawk's coming in to clean up my delta. My delta is going to get cleaned up there. We will not be able to get a scout onto the yellow player's base. So right now, just continuing to develop my base and build up my army. We got deltas coming in for a Harrydog. They're going to be able to clean up these Caymans, but here comes this air support from the red player. Hawks coming in. They're going to be able to dish out damage and take out those deltas. So a little bit of fighting going on for those naval containers. Harrydog's got a couple vertex out. I got some infantry here trying to grab this container. Not going to be able to grab it though. Yellow did a good job in sending a couple coyotes and armadillos to deny me the resources. Those hawks as well trying to fight on behalf of the red player to deny those resources for Harrydog. So I tell Harrydog that he's going to need to be able to tech up to HQ4 for the mass vertex if he's able to. And we got deltas coming in for Harrydog, trying to see if we can grab those resources. Vertex coming in to snipe some of those Caymans. and those Caimans are going to get cleaned up. Those Hawks are going to dish out some damage though. Harrydog's going to lose some Vertex in the process. I'm going to go ahead and pull back. We can see that the red player is now HQ4, so looks like all of us are going for our tech builds. We're anticipating some big battles going to unfold pretty soon here. And it looks like we've got a triple assault vehicle factory build for the yellow player, and Hawks coming in to clean up my Cyclone. So it looks like yellow got rid of their Avia factory and is in favor of going for mass Jaguars supported by chameleons and porcupines. So the ground army composition I'm going to go for is a combination of Zeus, Typhoons, and Torrents. I'm also going to mix in a few fire assaults to give me some units that can reveal any chameleon fog. So at this point, I'm going to upgrade my other assault vehicle factory just so I can have double vehicle production. And here comes some Hawks though. They're going to level my naval shipyard. Looks like they've got 8 Hawks so far from the red player. So red is most definitely going for a mass Avia build. Harrydog coming in with his 4 Vertex, going to be able to score some nice hits on these Hawks. And a couple Hawks are going to go down for the red player. Meanwhile, we got some infantry fighting on the corner. Harrydog is going to pull back his Vertex and he's going to swing them back around, possibly in a patrol mode, just to do a check to see if red's going to come back this way before bringing his Vertex back. So right now, I've got 4 factories going, 2 level 3 assault vehicle factories for Zeus production, and 2 level 2 special vehicle factories for Torrent production. And I tell Harrydog that he needs to make more aviation. He says he wants to go HQ5. I actually don't recommend that. He only has a fraction of the units needed for coverage. I tell him that he should actually max out HQ4 first, go for a full Avia build before building the HQ5. Meanwhile, I've got a Cyclone coming in here, and we see that there's an Armadillo coming in from the yellow player. Harrydog's going to snipe that Armadillo though. I've got a small ground contingent of 5 Zeus and 4 Typhoons moving in on the container. Hawks coming in for the red player, but red's going to go ahead and pull back. He does not want to mess with my Typhoons at the moment, which is fair. And so I'm going to deploy my Typhoons to maximize their anti-air effectiveness, and I'm also going to spread out my Zeus tanks so that we got good coverage. We got some air combat happening in the bottom right corner of the map. Vertex against Hawks here. And let's see if Harrydog can do an interception. And Harrydog scores a nice interception onto the Hawks. That is a solid hit. Harrydog's Vertex are coming in now, and he's kind of patrolling them around. He's going to go for that shipyard though. That shipyard's going to take a big hit, but that is a lot of anti-air from the red player. Shipyard's going to go down, but Harrydog's going to lose some Vertex, and Harrydog is going to pull back those Vertex. So I tell Harrydog move his ground troops to point G. And originally I was thinking of a 2-pronged assault. Harrydog would just have some units on the side for a side attack, and then I was going to move my main ground army. Our plan now is to hit the red player first and see how that kind of pans out. So most of my ground army is moving in towards the red player. I've got a small contingent in the corner. Here comes a Vertex from Harrydog. Harrydog is going to hit the airfield. That is a ton of anti-air though. Oh, those Vertex are taking so much damage. Harrydog's going to be able to do some damage to a second airfield, and Harrydog's taking some heavy casualties. He's going to take out a second airfield, but he's losing Vertex quickly. And let's see if he can take out this last airfield. The last airfield goes down, but this is a very costly trade on Harrydog's part. That cost him pretty much all of his Vertex. Meanwhile, I'm moving in my ground army. Harrydog's got a couple Vikings and a Delta mixed in as well, so now we're moving an army in. Meanwhile, I've got an army on the side here. My plan is to use this main army at the red player's base to draw out the yellow player's primary base, the contingency, and then I'm going to use my group at the side with the 5 Zeus and 4 Typhoons. They're going to dish out damage as much as I can onto the factories, because the yellow player's main army is going to be engaging the red player here. So here we go now. It's going to be a JCP army versus Zeus and Torrent. Here comes the yellow player with a mass Jaguar Porcupine Chameleon army, just as I had suspected. And my Zeus tanks are rolling in now. And it looks like yellow moved their entire army. They have nothing to defend their base. my units are duking it out with the yellow army and the red army, but this is just too much for my main ground army. So my main ground army is going to get cleaned up, but my secondary army here is doing a fantastic job just cleaning up some very critical infrastructure for the yellow player. We can see that yellow has already teched up to HQ5 as well. So it's a good thing we're going to be able to hit these factories. This is going to set back the yellow player quite a bit, hopefully. So we've already taken out 3 assault vehicle factories and a special vehicle factory. We're going to go ahead and hit this construction yard now just so we can further delay the yellow player and their army production. And we're going to be able to maybe clean up one more supply center, and we'll get the supply center, and now the JCP army from the yellow player is back. And my Zeus tanks are going to try to dish out damage, but there's just way too many tanks here. My Zeus tanks are going to get cleaned up. But overall, this was a really good trade. Even though I lost my full ground army, I was able to dish out some good damage against both red and yellow's armies. And more importantly, my army at the side was able to take out a lot of critical infrastructure for the yellow player. So yellow's going to be delayed in rebuilding their ground army. Hawks coming in meantime to snipe some of these infantry, and looks like the yellow player is moving in for a counterattack. I think the yellow player knows that this is probably their best timing to try and make a move of some kind, considering that my main ground army had been previously finished off, and yellow does not have any production facilities left at the moment. So this is the main ground army that's going to hit us now. Let's see where they're headed. Hawks coming in, they're going to be able to dish out some damage against those Vertex. I'm going to move my ground army in towards Harrydog, just so I can potentially help him defend. Vertex coming in to dish out some damage, and looks like both red and yellow are combining their ground armies together for a combined assault. I'm trying to move my units back to defend my base, possibly, but then Harrydog's going to flag his base. We see that the yellow player and red player are making their moves onto the green player barracks, onto Harrydog's base. So I'm going to move my infantry in. I've got Zeus tanks, torrents, and fire assault. And here we go, we're dishing out some massive damage, but this is a ton of vehicles. This is a huge attack from the resistance players. Let's see what kind of damage they're going to do. Vertex coming in for Harrydog to dish out some damage, but that is a ton of porcupines, and those Vertex are just taking a ton of damage. So it looks like they're going for a split army approach. Some of the Jaguars are taking on my ground army and trying to dish out damage onto my forces, while the red player is moving in their ground army to the side of Harrydog's base, and is going to deploy there, and it's going to dish out damage onto this Avia factory. Meanwhile, I was able to clean up the rest of those Jaguars from the yellow player, but now this army from the red player is just moving in towards those airfields. Harrydog's not in a good position at the moment because he doesn't have anything to defend the back of the base. I'm going to go ahead and produce more units now. I've got triple assault vehicle factory at this point, along with 2 special vehicle factories, so I'm going to be able to reinforce the back of our base here, thankfully. Harrydog's going to lose a second Avia factory, though, and these airfields are taking some good damage, though. We're going to lose an airfield there, but the ground assault from the red player has pretty much been cleaned up. So overall, we were able to actually defend this assault pretty well. Harrydog did lose some critical infrastructure, but it's not impossible for him to rebuild. Plus, both yellow and red spent their entire ground armies on that assault, and I still have plenty of command points. At this point, I've almost got a full HQ5 army, so I'm going to go ahead and just continue to produce a few more units just to top off the rest of my ground army. I'm also going to throw down some defensive structures as a deterrence in case the yellow player tries to attack me from the side. I'm also going to move in my Typhoons from earlier in my initial ground assault, just so I can have some air coverage for my units. I've got a large ground army though. I've got about 8 torrents, plenty of hammers, and Zeus tanks kind of mixed together. And I've got some fire assaults to support as well. We see a JCP army in the bottom right corner fighting for a container. A couple Hawks coming in to dish out some damage, but it's not too concerning at this point. I'm going to go ahead and move my army forward now. We've got a Cyclone just to get a little extra vision over the battlefield. And we can see a JCP army moving in for the yellow player. I'm going to go ahead and deploy my torrents here. And that is a ton of firepower onto the yellow player's army. Yellow taking so much damage right now. And I've got my Zeus tanks in a hold stance right now just to cover the torrents. Here come the Hawks from the red player trying to dish out damage as well. But these Hawks are taking some damage from my Typhoons. Not all my Typhoons are at the front line though. I need to get my other Typhoons a little bit closer. My ground army has pretty much finished off the remnants of the yellow player's base, and Harrydog is now coming in with some nice Vertex support, and he's going to be able to shoot down a couple of those Hawks. Nicely done. I'm pretty much free at this point to move my ground army onto the yellow player's base. I've got about 90 command points worth of units, and that is plenty of command points to move onto this base. Yellow's got a couple Jaguars deployed at the front of the base, but that is not going to be enough. And it looks like Yellow is in danger here. I've got a ton of Zeus tanks now at the yellow player's base, and Yellow is trying to reinforce, but Yellow's just getting hit with a combination of my ground army and Harrydog's Vertex, and that headquarters is going to go down for the yellow player. Looks like they were able to rebuild 3 assault vehicle factories and still had the 1 special vehicle factory from earlier, but it looks like my initial assault was able to do enough damage to delay the buildup of Yellow's army, and that's going to put us in a nice position here just to move my full army in, and we're going to go ahead and just level the rest of Yellow's base. My Zeus tanks are pretty much at this point done with cleaning up the production structures from the yellow player's base. All Yellow has left now is a barracks and some supply centers and power plants. And maybe if Red was able to pull off some kind of miracle, Yellow would be able to get back into the game with those resources. But to me, it's pretty much good game at this point. We're just going to go ahead and clean up the last little bit of infrastructure. And I signal to Harrydog that I'm going to go ahead and work on contracts. The rest of this video is us just kind of working on contracts, because at this point, the red player surrendered. Alright, hope you all enjoyed this battle between 2 different clans that were top 70 in the world. It was a fun battle to fight, well coordinated on our end, and we will see you in the next battle.